them hand-operated pod augers, the kind that were used in those days to prospect for coal. Relying on directions provided by Smith and Vaughan, they ran the auger down and struck the platform Smith and Vaughan told them would be there at precisely 98 feet. The bit then dropped 12 inches and hit another 4 inches of oak and then went through 22 inches of loose metal. The auger then hit another 4 inches of oak and 6 inches of spruce. From there on down to 112 feet, there was only clay. According to records kept by the company, something was definitely there between 98 and 105 feet. They eagerly retrieved the auger, anxious for clues as to the size and composition of the treasure. But what they found was yet another mystery.
There were 2 times in the 1800s when searchers thought they drilled into treasure chests. One was in 1849 when they thought they drilled through 2 chests, one on top of the other. And the other one was in 1897 when they thought they drilled into one big chest which had different measurements from the other 2.
The auger did bring up 2 pieces of gold metal, very much like the links on a watch chain. But not everyone was convinced they had found treasure chests. Some think it may have been a coffin.
In my opinion, these 2 pieces of metal that were taken up in their core possibly, not probably, but possibly came from chainmail armor that the Arif may have been using. Because chainmail armor in those days, and before, 1,000 years before, was still quite popular. And they probably dressed him up after he died in chainmail armor and put him in his final resting place.
It might indeed be possible to imagine the pit as nothing more than an elaborate tomb for some ancient religious leader. But there's more, much more to the story. A subsequent bore brought up something that was a complete surprise, a piece of sheepskin parchment with the letters V and W on it. The Truro Company believed they had encountered a vault containing a wooden box or boxes of some kind. This box, if it exists, is between the 154 and 161 foot level and is reputedly the place the auger found the parchment. But 10 feet below that, according to the company records, is an impenetrable iron plate. Who could have built such an ingenious masterwork? And what treasure could justify such an enormous effort? Gold, jewels, money? And what about the strange piece of parchment? When the Triton Corporation immediately began a series of test drills around what they believed to be the original location of the money pit, eventually drilling down to almost 200 feet. And here, if you'll pardon the pun, the mystery deepens. The drill plunged through into a cavern in the island's bedrock. Somewhere in the distant past, a significant underground project seems to have been carried out under the island. And as always, the elusive question, why?
Over the years, the search has evolved around 2 locations, the actual site of the money pit and also 140 feet northeast was the site called Borehole 10X, which was an exploratory hole dug by Triton Alliance back in the 1970s. From this, they made some pretty amazing discoveries. At the bottom of this shaft, which is 230 feet, a chamber was discovered, a water-filled chamber. A camera was lowered into the water, and it sent back images that appeared on the monitor to be a human form. Also chests, perhaps oaken chests, and also items such as tools that may have been dropped into the shaft over the years.
The question of who could have built this astonishing masterwork was beginning to take on major proportions. The answer to that question just might provide the answer to what, if anything, was there. That conclusion appears, on the surface at least, to be what drives the ongoing search, in spite of a string of spectacular failures, stories of curses, and the simple fact that not so much as one thin dime has ever come out of the so-called money pit. Yet all this seems to have had no effect on the treasure seekers at all.
It's not so much the treasure that draws people to Oak Island as the mystery. Just about everyone who is involved in Oak Island at present is more interested in learning the answers and the solution to the mystery than getting rich by selling treasure.